Okay, Simon. Right. So you set the scene. You set the scene in part one. You've done a fair bit, but more recently you've written a book, the betting blueprint.
That's easy for you to say, Si.
Stop it. So why did you decide to write it and share your knowledge?
I've always wanted to write a book. I felt it was kind of the right time because I'd left Betfan after 10 years and I was kind of freelancing, doing different things. And I had a block of time, which is a real polite, nice way for me of saying nobody was offering me any work at the time. So I kind of tried to break it down. And what the aim of the book, and I sometimes think I didn't get this across well enough, is that the book is about people who are struggling at gambling. Now, it's a hot topic at the moment. It's not about problem gamblers. It's not about gambling addicts. It's about people who are not very good at betting on horses predominantly. And it's about slowing down the bad habits, correcting the mindset, and then giving like strict strategies that are not world leading, but they are ones that if you follow them, you will not lose anymore. And I talk about you go to the platform, mark profit. Instead of going down the dark alley of punting badly. So it's about people who want to learn the basics of how to turn around a losing betting career. And there's different, I never know if we get a fixed thing on this because there are people who say 99% of punters lose. I don't believe that for a second. I think it's probably between 80 and 90, which is still a huge amount of people who need to like that mirror, that check, that stop, and then that reintroduction to changing like habits, because there are ways of beating the book. It's to cut out the amount of shorties you bet. It's not rocket science. It's to look for like value. I do think that value is below 7-2. Sometimes you have to question it, and then above 9-1, maybe value dissipates as well. So it's about looking at profitable zones. So yeah, it's sold well. An Amazon bestseller, so I'm working on the follow-up as we speak.
Okay, we'll talk about that later as well, but I'm interested that you come from a non-racing background.
Yeah, well, born in Scarborough, not from a racing background at all. So fairly near Malton, but not that sort of impinged on my life in any way. I just played football all the time. And it was while I was at sixth form that I got invited by another guy who I knew, who was the sixth form bookie, a guy called Andy Taylor. And at the time, I don't think he can be prosecuted retrospectively 36 years later, so we'll say he was a sixth form bookie. At the time, tax was 9% on bets. So he would like offer odds on, in fact, I still earn £3 because I bet Joe Bugner to beat Bruno, but I'm sure he's written it off. He would say, right, it's Tottenham v Liverpool, the big game. Because ITV, the big match was one match. It's very much pre-Sky days. So he would offer odds on that weekend's game. And we would say like, oh, it's a little bit prohibitive, Andy, but he would say, we'll go to the bookies then and pay your tax. So that was his catchphrase. But he invited me down one day to bet a horse called Miss Camellia that his dad was a syndicate member in. And so I went down with him and bet that, and the horse won. And I had that feeling of, I give you £5, you give me 20, which was it was almost like a nuclear shock to me. So I think I say in the book that I think I've spent the last 36, 37 years trying to recreate that feeling. And I wonder if that's what we all do when we punt. We're trying to recreate that first incredible buzz of this amazing life behind the betting shop door. So I was pretty hooked from there, but it was to prove far more complex than my dad says my horse will win. But Andy's gone on to run Andy Taylor Bloodstock and be a hugely successful bookmaker as well. So it's funny how one chance meeting can take you both down that particular path in life. So yes, since then, it was very much frowned upon by my family, who understandably think gambling is not the way they wanted me to progress. But I think once you're in this game, it's very difficult to get out of it. It's like the mafia, nobody ever leaves.
Well, something else you say in the book as well is that the gambling world will chew you up and spit you out. So you're not really selling it to people that might...
No, yeah. Copies are still available, by the way, after saying that. Yeah, there it is, yeah. yeah. I know it's there. It is. Amazon and all bad booksellers are still selling it. Yeah, they. Yeah, it is. It's. The idea of writing the book and my whole like shtick in general is that there's no point selling people a fairy tale. This is a rough, tough business. If you want to bet seriously, you've got to be ready for those weeks, months, dare I say, even years when you're chasing on the inside. And you're having to learn new things, and the horrible frustration, which anybody who does it genuinely seriously will tell you, when the things that worked 2-3 years ago no longer work and don't produce a profit, and you've got to put them in the bin and chase what's the next angle. So it's not easy, but it is possible. It is possible to beat the book, and there are plenty of people doing it, and there are plenty of people with the letter that says your account's closed that prove it. So, but you've got to think smart.
Okay, you're talking about thinking smart. I thoroughly enjoyed reading your book, I've got to say.
Checks in the post.
But you've got some ideas in there that are going to get people talking and some people screaming, what a load of nonsense. Because, so I don't mean that in a bad way, but if you ask any mathematician, the odds of after 9 consecutive
hit me.
9 consecutive reds on roulette, they say it's going to be the same odds of the next one being red. You say start piling into black.
Yes, I think
not exactly quoted you, but that's the implication.
I think you're referring to perhaps the most contentious thing of a already highly contentious career, where I developed a theory about probability. Well, it was with a friend of mine. I told you before, he's a forensic scientist. People who don't like the theory probably want them.
Is that the prof?
No, don't mention the prof. No, the prof. We'll come on to him. Yeah. No, this is my friend Greg, who's one of the country. I won't give his surname in case people hate the theory, and he isn't allowed to solve any more murders. But if he ever has solved any, but yeah, we came up with this idea about probability, and the actual wider thing is called the fundamental interconnectedness of all things, whereby nothing is in a bubble. Now, of course, mathematicians will tell you that everything is separate, that the spin of a coin is 50-50 and can never be anything other than 50-50. But I put it to you, Si, and these people like Neil Channing who mock this theory, and many, many other people in racing, but I have garnered some support, but it's one of those where nobody wants to say publicly they agree with me. I put it to you that if a coin has spun 14 times, and it's still come out heads every time, that you are now beyond the realms of what should happen in the wider light universe, and therefore you should start thinking seriously about betting on tails. No gerrymandering. The coin is the roulette wheel is fair. So the guy walks into the casino, he sees people playing, he thinks, what's all the commotion about? And this incredible run of reds has occurred. Now, the reason I said it in a casino, because it's like perfect chance. But what I wanted to get a debate about was how in sports betting, how in golf, where if you have, like, say, I tipped 12 losers in a row in playoffs, incredible, like, freak of whatever. Now, obviously, people who are in that service were thinking, well, he's got to win a playoff eventually. And when it got to the 13th, obviously it did. Now, I make another example of Man City having 18 wins in a row, and then I started to bet against them. Now, they'd had some wins that were quite lucky. They'd had some, where it was a late penalty or whatever. And life just eventually will go against you. And we as punters, I think, need to think like that, whether we're on a losing run or whatever. So I do think, though, each race is an independent event, each golf tournament, each spin of a coin, we're all connected to a wider point. So if somebody does bet on 9 reds, I'm in the other camp.
See, now, I'm just going to say what I think people will be thinking when they watch this. I can understand that about roulette to a certain extent.
Yeah.
But with the way you were talking about Man City, so when Frankel was running, something's eventually going to beat Frankel, or if you do have to accept sometimes that some things are better than others.
But how many Frankels have there been? Yeah, I know what you mean. There are horses who you can go skint trying to be clever to get beat. And for years, I was always in the camp of, I'll get that one beat, you watch, I'll get this. And then eventually you're better off rowing in. I appreciate that. But I do think, I'll give you an example, if you want to raise an example, runs and runs of favourites. There was a meeting at Thirsk years ago where favourites won 2-day meeting, both events. I'm sure some bookies are still in therapy for it, 25 years on. And that couldn't continue. Even though each race was independent, I would argue you wouldn't go back the third day. It would get. They were already in record territory. My point is, if you're already in record territory in things that have never happened before, I'd start thinking it's likely that that'll stop. So, yeah, I'm not saying any casino wheels or any coins. I'm just talking in general probability. Runs do end. And if it's 50-50 and that 50-50 has been 9 one way, my own view and a very few other people's view is that you should start to think of the alternative.
Well, there's actually, I did an interview with a guy from Race Stats app. Now, his program, everybody says it can't work, but it predicts when it's time for a certain, or anyway, that's by the by. But if anybody's interested in Simon's theory, that is backed up by winning system Race Stats app.
There you go. I've always admired him. I've never heard of him.
So Sod's Law, there's room for Sod's Law.
Yeah.
It's a thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we've talked.
Take that.
As opposed to cold hard maths. So talking about maths, tell us about your secret weapon, the prof.
Yeah, well, the prof, he has been my kind of full-time assistant since we were 18, 19. I can't reveal his name for a variety of reasons, but what I can tell you is he works in education as the head of a maths department. And basically, his job is to kind of realise my theories to see if they can become something that we can tip and punt. So I'll give you an example. When lockdown started, I thought, right, we've all got a block of time here now. It's very easy to just let another day go by. So what we're going to do is going to try and do some new systems. Now, I've only really got into systematic betting probably the last 4 or 5 years. It's never an area I've looked at. And so what we've done is we've come up with a series of systems we've pretty much got every course covered now with a particular system for that course, looking at past results. We factored in lots of things like course and distance winners, and various other factors to give everything a score. So what I do know now is that people may have better systems, but we've got a unique product that we can work with. So I kind of have the ideas, and then he goes away and does a lot of the work. God bless him.
Okay, now we're talking about golf earlier. Now this is the final part, the second part. So if you haven't got the time, we'll have to zip it into the next part. But where does the value lie, not lie, in golf betting?
I say it's time and time again tonight. If you want to win seriously at golf, you have to concentrate, in my view, on the outright market. The bookmakers and people will try and get you betting on 3 balls, 2 balls, individual matchups that are 10 to 11 the pair. If you get stuck into that 10 to 11 the pair match bets, you're going to have to be getting 8 out of 10 right to make that worth your time and effort. Now, I put it to you, that is hugely unlikely that you can seriously cop those figures. If you are, I would love you to speak to me on WhatsApp, because I'm in. Whereas the outright market, you got 4 days. I'll give you an example. You fancy a golfer to play well at Sawgrass. He can have a bad first round, still win the tournament. If you bet him to win the first round, he has a bad first round, you're probably going to lose. So he's going to lose a 3 ball, but he could still win the whole tournament. So your class will show for the 4 rounds. So concentrate. If you want to do fun bets, I've always thought there's nothing fun about losing money, but make sure they're a very, very small amount of your overall golf betting bank, and you concentrate on the outright tournament market, because that is where the bookies are vulnerable.